It's Monday, the 16th of May, 2016. I am Robin Yellow, and this is Techtasm episode 15, Parsey McParseFace. And with me again, because we couldn't afford anyone else, is James Woodall.
Thank you. That introduction was stellar.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, this week, James and I will be looking at AdBlocking, Tesla's autopilot fail, and more Boaty McBoatface news, and we'll be judging each one of those stories and more to determine if they are Techtasms, which is a blend of tech for technology and tasm for phantasm. Something exists only in a person's mind. So without more drivel, let's get on with this show. Now, James, did you know ad blocking accounts for almost 10% of the digital advertising market?
I suppose that sounds like a big number. Actually, that is it. That's a huge number.
It's gigantic. Now, a new study from Worldwide Digital Advertising 2016 to 2020 from Juniper Research, reported in the biz community this week, estimated that digital publishers stand to lose a staggering, wait for it, $27 billion by 2020.
Is that billion with a B?
Yes, billion with a pause. Now, this could be one of those numbers that the music industry was reporting ever since 2007 about how much revenue it had, quote, lost. Well, the revenue wasn't there because we found new ways of enjoying music. But the threat to ad revenues was certainly intensified because of Apple's inclusion of content blocking software in iOS 9. And furthermore, publishers will soon face additional challenges from network operators. Now, in the UK, the Mobile Network 3 has already announced plans to roll out ad blocking at a network level to all of its customers. Would that be enough to move you to 3, James?
No, as I've said on the previous episode, and I think on the previous episode before that, I do not use an ad blocker. That's it. I've said it. And I'm sure I'll say
it's out there. It kind of makes the discussion fairly redundant here. But Sam Barker, who's a research author, whatever the heck that means, said that adoption is being driven by consumer concerns over mobile data usage and privacy. Now, well, I mean, okay, you don't use an ad blocker, but when you're out and about on your mobile phone using data, that's got to cost you something, doesn't it, James?
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole privacy thing seems a bit silly because, hey, if you're using an Android device, Google know everything you do with or without ads. I mean, crikey, what's the argument here? Well,
yeah, that's true. And I suppose it's not the tracking for what you do, but the tracking for what you like and what you're interested in. Now, there's two ways of looking at that. One is that if you track what I'm interested in, you're more likely to give me products and services that I'm likely to buy. But the kind of more sinister view of it is if you're tracking me, then you know that I'm interested in the Honda Jazz, and therefore I must be a 65-year-old woman.
Well, that you are. Okay.
It's been said before, it'll be said again. Now, do you know what an acceptable ad initiative is?
No, I don't.
Well, let me give you an example of one. Google's AMP, which stands for Accelerated Mobile Page Program, is designed specifically as an acceptable ad initiative to increase trust in digital ads. Now, can you explain to the listener what Google's AMP, Accelerated Mobile Page Program, is?
Well, I guess, is this similar to the same how SSL certificates are verified so you know who's behind the website?
No. What it is they've said they've got a standard set of JavaScript in the web page. So it's effectively a design for a web page, say for a piece of, let's say, online content, or a web page which contains text, a certain amount of graphics, a certain size of adverts, which is not too much, not too little, but enough advertising space so you can get your message across. But crucially, a limited subset of JavaScript. So a typical rich internet page from your favorite publication, Ars Technica, may be up to 10 megabytes in size with adverts, gadgets, gizmos, JavaScript code. Programs like Google's AMP reduce that down to a few K.
Okay, well, that makes sense. I mean, I've been working on a website recently, and to have all the different tracking pieces of software like analytics and Facebook Pixel and Twitter and whatever, you start actually adding up quite a huge chunk of code in just background noise.
And that can slow the page load, of course, which makes the experience less smooth.
It's certainly interesting. It's almost like a regulator in some ways. Kind of, I suppose that makes sense.
Who do you think, James, is blocking the most ads?
Well, I'd say it's probably something like AdBlocker or something.
No, which segment of community? But I think you're probably right. It is AdBlocker or one of its 8 variants.
I'd say it's probably. Well, it's definitely tech-savvy people. I know I'm definitely in the minority here by not having one from my own community.
Millennials and younger browsers.
Younger browsers, okay.
Younger browsers, kids, teenagers,
okay,
students, ne'er-do-wells.
Although saying that, those people would also be using things like Facebook, for example, which you can't block the ads on Facebook for mobile, for example.
Oh, can't you? Oh, I thought you could with the inbuilt one in iOS 9.
No, it's a native app. How can you block the adverts in a native app?
Well, doesn't it just block all traffic like a proxy server from known ad servers? That's how they work, don't they?
Yeah, but I imagine Facebook's ones come from within Facebook, so how could...
Very good point.
I can't see how that would work. So
no, I can't see how they would do it either. Well, maybe it's using some heuristic algorithm or something we don't know about.
No, but I don't think they do actually block the ads in the Facebook native app. But then saying that, I don't use ad blockers, so what would I know?
Well, I don't even spend any time in Facebook, so what the heck would I know?
Brilliant. So 2 experts there, you know.
So do you think it is real that the digital publishers stand to lose $27 billion by 2020?
It's a made-up number because, as you say, there's no way. Although saying they would have a better way of knowing because they know if somebody's using an ad blocker or not, and of course you can canvass that kind of data, and you know. Also,
you can make up any number and then add 27 billion to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Say we've lost 27 billion. This is money they haven't even made yet. It's a total Techtasm.
Absolutely. So, moving on, I hope you're sitting down because we're going to talk about electric vehicles.
Oh my goodness!
I know,
not from an article in
my favourite website, in the most awesome website in the world, Ars Technica. Obviously.
Oh goodness me! If it just is Don Amadio, then that's it. We've got the Holy Triumvirate.
Certainly, actually, no, we've got a newcomer on the scene. Jonathan Gitlin has written a wonderful, wonderful article about how the Tesla autopilot failed to brake.
This happened to you recently, didn't it?
Yeah. Yes, but my autopilot, my head was definitely somewhere else when I did that. Now, so this particular driver is saying that the Tesla autopilot, somebody slowed down in front of them. It was supposed to brake, it didn't. Tesla says, and I quote, "The vehicle logs show that its adaptive cruise control system is not to blame. And safety is their top priority, and we engineer and build our cars with this foremost in mind." So Tesla basically saying, we've got the data. This was basically, I think they're trying to be polite here, user error.
Ah, so they've actually they pulled the logs off the car and said, no.
That's technically exactly what they said. I mean,
I think that's probably what the press release said.
It's ha. No. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly how. In fact,
and what was anyone hurt in the crash?
I don't think so. I mean, it was just. I think it's just a bit of bump on the back, really.
Well, there's a kind of picture of it in the article, isn't there? And there's a Tesla with a little bit of front end damage.
Exactly. I mean, that probably won't buff out. I'm guessing. It probably won't.
At least there wasn't a fire, I suppose.
No, and in fact, the Teslas are quite good for that. I mean, they've got the highest safety rating in the industry, or so something crazy like that. But the driver describes herself as being super pro Tesla. I mean, that's
well, it's a bit like saying super pro Apple, isn't it? Tesla is riddled, or Tesla owners are massive fanboys, with the same kind of reverence and almost religious adoration that Appleistas like yourself enjoy.
Yeah, I wondered when that would come up. But what I don't get about the Tesla, though, is they've had more recalls per car than any other car company or something ridiculous.
Yeah, so people that own them say they're absolutely brilliant and reliable, yet the facts speak for themselves. They're not. They're kind of hammered together in Fremont, California by people with hammers and kind of no skills. And I think they actually have been making moves recently to employ serious car people from companies like Audi that build cars with no defects.
Yeah, well, they've got a problem, haven't they? Because the Model 3's pre-orders are so large that at their current production capacity, they have no possible way of making that many cars in a reasonable time frame. And supposedly, I read last week that Elon Musk has a sleeping bag at the Tesla factory. He has his own sleeping bag in the factory, which is great. But I have to say, just moving back to the point of this article, Andrew Rhodes of Compare.com did say that we should expect to hear many more cases of drivers blaming their own cars for collisions in the coming years. And now that's really interesting that he said that. However, if the car has got the logs in it, which of course it's got cameras as well, or certainly more likely going to be as we're moving forward, how could drivers possibly complain that the car's, it did it itself?
Well, you know the importance of good debug information, and I think this is just another example of that. It's an appliance, it's a computer with wheels on it, and you pull the logs, you've got the facts, you've got the upper ground.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is...
But sooner or later, because they build, the actual build quality is not that good. I mean, that Electric reported actually this week that Elon Musk recently confirmed the hire of Peter Hochholdinger, who is Audi's senior director of production behind the manufacturing programs for the A4, A5 and Q5 vehicles. And he is going to improve Model S and production and Model X production, and crucially make sure the Model 3 production program is up to snuff, because as you said, they've got to make a lot of those things.
No, definitely. And as you know, I spend a lot of time with a German manufacturer of vehicles, and having spent time at the factory, the processes are amazing. There's everything is well oiled.
Everything's covered in oil.
Thankfully.
Actually, I have seen pictures from a well-known German car manufacturer. In this case, it was VW, where the actual line itself, there's no oil on it. All their overalls are spotlessly clean. Everything is wiped out. There isn't a blob of grease anywhere.
No, it is. It is absolutely incredible. The factory that I work at is so well tuned. Everything is timed to the nanosecond. They've got that thing nailed down. They really do. So if this chap from Audi can come in and help Tesla out, then, well, they certainly need it because, well, I mean, I imagine making a car from scratch, which the Model S is, because, of course, the Roadster was built on the Lotus, whatever it was.
Lotus Elise.
Yes. That, I've only ever seen one of them in real life.
What, a Lotus Elise?
No, a Tesla Roadster.
Oh, Tesla Roadster, yeah. No, I don't think I've seen one at all.
It was in San Francisco, of all places. Well, actually, that's where you'd expect it, right?
Yeah.
But
they sold them all.
Yeah, so I think, well, wasn't it you who said that you predicted a while back that Tesla would have failed by now? I think.
Don't bring that up. Yes, I was a guest on a podcast a few years ago, 6 years ago, I think, and I said they're bound to fail this year, and of course, now look at them.
I think if they keep on going the way they're going, they're just going to keep kind of scraping the bottom. That maybe they're a company, maybe they grew too quickly. I mean, maybe they don't have enough car people. It's the same.
They keep pushing the boundaries. They keep defying the critics, and that's what we all love about Tesla. It's a dream. It's a dream, a total dream. It's about saying it's two fingers up to the rest of the auto industry. And the auto industry has ignored them for too long. They've ignored them at their peril. And they are going to make some money eventually at some point. But I don't even think that's his point, is actually to make money. It's just to do it, And you've got to love that. I mean, you can't help but fall in love with that philosophy, can you?
Oh, it's great. So I guess. Well, I mean, what's the Techtasm here? What's the question?
Cars are going to crash. This is a real. One of these days, a crash is going to be reported, and the logs are going to show that it was the car's fault.
Yes.
And the Tesla spokesperson is going to say results from the car's logs are inconclusive or some nonsense like that, and we're all going to go, ha ha. But then actually, if you run the numbers, cars crash all the bloody time with safety systems in it. Tesla's safety system is probably just as good as anybody else's, but it's inevitable, I think, that it's going to happen.
Of course.
Now, if only you could press a button and have a brand new Tesla Model 3 delivered to your drive, James, would that make you a happy bunny?
Yeah, it would. It would, but then I'm a petrol head, and that's probably one place, one of the many places that we massively disagree on.
Well, Read Write reported this week about Amazon's new Dash button. Now, they debuted this Dash button last year, actually, which it's a button, just to clue you in, it's a sort of a couple of centimetres, 5-6 centimetres long. It's just got a button on it, and you can reorder a specific item when you're running low at the touch of a button. And today it was expanded, the capabilities for this, with the addition of a new Amazon Web Services Internet of Things button. So it's got all the key buzzwords in there. Now, what could you use this for, I hear you asking? Well, it could be used as a remote control for Netflix, a switch for your Philips Hue light bulb, a check-in, check-out device for Airbnb guests, or even a way to order your favourite pizza for delivery, said Amazon in the announcement. Would you like to use one of these to order your favourite pizza for delivery, James?
I'm doing the pizza right now. Yeah, definitely. That sounds like
or a New York stack.
Oh, a New York. I have to say, I'm so pleased I told you about that.
The New York stack.
So, this is for the listener. Despite our many disagreements on Apple versus Google, we have a shared appreciation for the Golden Arches.
Indeed, the New York stack especially. Fantastic burger. Go out and buy yourself one. Now, this button costs $20. But it went on sale and was all sold out in 24 hours, and Amazon haven't said when it's coming back. But the trick to this one is that as a developer, you can just write your own code for it. So they've said it's a kind of open platform that you can write your own code and deploy that at very low cost into the Amazon Web Services cloud. Now, following the success, James, of Amazon Echo and Alexa, it's been a fantastic year, hasn't it, for Amazon pushing into the smart home market?
What I'm curious about, and my wife sent me an article to this a couple of days ago, and I was reading it. Is it just one button?
It's just one button. Yeah. It kind of pairs with your local Wi-Fi somehow, and then when you press the button, it carries out an action. But I mean, like, what if you've got it programmed for like pepperoni pizza, but you really fancy a meat feast? Well, maybe you could have two buttons. Yeah, that's true. I think that's based on the principle that it's got atomic functionality. Perhaps maybe it's got press, it's got click, and it's got click and hold and double click. I mean, there may be a range of things that it can actually do. I could be selling it short here, but the bottom line is it's cheap. It's 10, 15 quid. It's cheap. And it's simple, i.e. it just does one thing, possibly two or three if you include those other click combinations. But wouldn't it be great to automate things with IFT, like turning on lights, doorbells, video cameras, I don't know. I mean, anything you like. Isn't it? I've heard that the Amazon Echo has got, I think their functionality is called something like skills, and there are hundreds and hundreds of them, and you have to enable the skills when you buy an Amazon Echo. You have to go onto the website, whatever, and select the skills that you want. Like you can make it make a fart noise. Apparently, yeah, somebody's written a little program for that. You ask it for a fart noise, and then it gives you one, which is all of the enjoyment of a fart without the smell. Excellent. Well, it is enjoyable. I've got too many questions. Like, it looks small, so I want to stick it in my pocket. But if it only works on home Wi-Fi, what's the why? I think I'm missing the point somewhat. Well, certainly the ones that they deployed, the dash buttons, which had specific products on them, carry the kind of brand of washing powder or toothpaste or whatever consumable good you had to reorder. So it was not only brand reinforcement around the house, it was going to be used around the house as well. But yes, certainly if the mobility only extends, as far as the Wi-Fi range, then it's going to have a limited number of functions. But I guess in launching this for developers to do their worst, we'll find out what it's good for, yeah?
No, I guess so. Yeah, look, it would be interesting, and I would certainly get one with the intention of doing something with it.
Is the world going to be full of them, or is it just a Techtasm?
I think it's a Techtasm. It's got Techtasm written all over it.
Well, you may well be right. Now, as a little follow-up to last week's episode, forget Boaty McBoatface, James. Google's AI language software. What's that?
I can't forget Boaty McBoatface.
You can't forget. It's indelibly etched on your mind, on your retina. Well, Google have launched an AI language. Hang on, wait a minute. What was the question? It better be a good one.
I don't know.
Stop interrupting.
All right, I'll shut up.
Well, Google have launched an AI language software parser called Parsey McParseFace in honor of the failed bid to name the research boat Boaty McBoatface. Now, apparently it uses machine learning. It reports in the Mail Online this week by Richard Gray. And I think Google are having a cheeky dig at the humorless officials that have named the RMS Boaty McBoatface as, what was it? It was the RMS David Attenborough, wasn't it? By calling its latest parser Parsey McParseFace. Hilarious. Now, this software apparently is part of an open source neural network aimed at training computers to understand how human languages are put together so it can be processed. And the article itself gives a load of examples of how it works. Looks very clever, but the fact they've given it a comedy name is a nice bit of promotion for it, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And hey, it's not every day that a piece of real tech makes it into the Daily Fail, so that's
exactly, and follows the Boaty McBoatface meme that we've been trying to do every week.
To be fair, that's just got win all over it, really, hasn't it? I mean,
it has.
I think more people are likely to discover this type of programming because of the awesome name. So, Google, congratulations, you've won fans.
Yeah, well done.
So I guess it's time to move on, I suppose. And this may surprise you, but we're now taking a trip back to Ars Technica, obviously.
It's the only way to finish a show.
It is. But again, a different author, Peter Bright, who I'm sure we've done stories with before, is reporting that Google has a plan now to make Chrome's integration of Flash, Adobe's Flash, click to play. So now whenever you see a Flash thing, an animation, a video, whatever, you have to click it to play. And the idea is to enhance security by not executing the Flash automatically. But they have said that they're going to leave it enabled by default on the top 10 domains that depend on the plugin. And of course, that includes things like YouTube and Facebook and Amazon and so forth. But
does YouTube actually use Flash anymore?
I don't think it does by default. I was about to say something really silly, like maybe it rolls back to it if your browser doesn't support HTML5. But then as this is I can't
remember the last time I saw an actual Flash-powered YouTube video. There may be some perhaps very, very old videos that weren't transcoded to WebM or H.264 or whatever that can be played in the native HTML5 player. But I suppose if you're running YouTube on a very old browser, IE6 or something, that perhaps does not support HTML5 video playing, maybe it'll do it then.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite possible. Well, look, it's about time. The Flash has always been, the leaky sieve in web security. When, if any hacker, malicious person wanted to get into your browser, Flash was open door saying, "Please come in and take whatever you see."
Well, I've always said that Flash are savior of the universe.
Of course,
a fantastic piece of software, but I think Adobe have actually stopped supporting it, haven't they?
I think they've moved over. Yeah, they've tried to move them to more HTML5 technologies, which is good. Flash was because hey, it is dying, a really, as you say, a really, really great environment. And I remember writing Flash. Do you remember those entire Flash websites that were just nothing but Flash?
Yes.
I did a website for a famous children's author, 2005,
J.K. Rowling.
2004. I didn't say that. And that was entirely in Flash, and it was great fun. You know, you could get away with loads of things, but
well, you've got an entirely controlled environment there, haven't
yes.
you? With sort of vector processing, you can do all sorts of clever things.
It was really good.
But it's not like you can't still run Flash, can you? Because actually, I mean, if you take Chrome, it's got its own native Flash runtime environment, doesn't it?
Well, it does, but it's now click to play. So, you know, that's...
So they're looking to retire it. So while they have got a Flash runtime environment, which is obviously code that either they take from Adobe or Adobe help them with the development and support of it, they want to just retire it and force people to ditch it.
Yeah, I don't believe they've written their own. I think you're right. I think they have embedded the Adobe version.
Right.
Because Flash is not an open source plugin or standard. Yes, it's the way forward. I guess the question is, though, what happens to other types of plugins? Because when I posted this story for our discussion earlier, was it today or yesterday, whenever it was, I was thinking to myself, there is still a place for plugins. Because there's going to be things that the browser, because, I mean, look, it takes an age for HTML to update the spec. I mean, HTML6 is being spoken about now. We're 5 years away, okay? I mean, I think plugins have a place. So, I mean, what does this mean? I mean...
Well, let's just be clear about what a plugin is. It's something which allows a browser to carry out some functionality that is not in the base specification for the language, or i.e. is not supported by the browser manufacturers. So a plugin like Flash, for example, Adobe would have had to have written versions which work on Chrome and Firefox and Internet Explorer and Edge and goodness knows what. So actually, you know, it's filling a hole. And you could argue that actually the things that Flash were really good at, vector graphics, media, motion video, are now supported natively. So actually there's no real reason to continue other than for legacy reasons, for websites perhaps that haven't got the funds to redevelop. The author you were talking about, maybe.
Flash use case is definitely dying, but there could still be a need for plugins as such. And I just, you know, to enhance the web, maybe there's security features or, you know, I don't know, whatever. I just think that maybe HTML5 doesn't quite cover all of them, and I don't want to go back to a point where we were, say, with IE6, where the web was kind of left alone for 5 years. So, yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, as a kind of parallel story to this, Apple are ditching QuickTime. They've actually said they do not support QuickTime on Windows PC, and that it is actually a threat vector and that you should uninstall it immediately. And that was very recent. That was only, less than a month ago. That was reported in the Wall Street Journal. And
that I guess makes sense. I mean, Microsoft have pretty much retired Silverlight as well for probably the same reason, I suspect.
Yes, they should have. That should have been killed at birth, in my opinion. I mean, what was the point of Silverlight? It was a kind of competitor to Flash, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was, but the programming environment was 10 times better. I mean, you could write C# in your browser. Who wouldn't want to do that?
Well, yes, true. And like anything, a lot of things actually that Microsoft produce, perhaps it is, certainly incumbent upon Adobe to do a better job programming or to take some advice from Microsoft, because they always support their developers well, don't they?
Yes, of course. And I suppose the thing with Silverlight, the spin-offs for that were, if you have a more efficient .NET runtime, that can help applications, Windows, servers, wherever. So Silverlight had a lot of benefits. I think the Silverlight itself, although I believe it's still being used for Netflix, believe it or not, for displaying videos.
Yeah, that's true, for reasons of security, DRM.
Yeah, which okay, so Silverlight is going to disappear fairly soon. for the same reasons as Flash. But I just wonder, the browser plugin. I just think, maybe it's just the end, and that will be a shame. So
it will.
So I guess that's my question, really. Is it the end of browser plugins, or will there be some kind of resurgence? I don't know why. But
I don't think there will. I think everything will go standards based.
Okay.
Well, that is all for this week. You can find us at facebook.com/Techtasm and subscribe in your usual places on iTunes, Stitcher and Feedburner. You can contact us at feedback@techtasm.com, and remember, give us your stars. Now, we record every Tuesday at 2100 BST GMT, which is why we're recording on a Monday this week. This is me, Sir Robin Yellow.
And me, James Woodall.
Asking the question, is it real or is it just a damn Techtasm?